They said we'd never see them together again. Yet here they were, side by side under the bright New York lights. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, the once inseparable Hollywood power couple, just shocked fans with an unexpected reunion at the Kiss of the Spider-Woman premiere. And this wasn't some random run-in. Affleck didn't just show up, he helped make the movie happen. As cameras flashed and whispers rippled through the crowd, the two stood shoulder to shoulder on the red carpet, smiling, exchanging quiet words, and posing for photos that immediately sent the internet into overdrive. Just months after finalizing their divorce, the sight of them together again had everyone asking the same question. Was this just business or something more personal? But behind that calm, collected red carpet moment lies a story of heartbreak, ambition, and a movie that somehow brought them back to the same place, even after everything fell apart. Because Kiss of the Spider-Woman isn't just Lopez's latest project. It's the very film that helped her survive one of the hardest years of her life. And Affleck? He's the reason the film exists at all. To understand why this reunion hit so hard, you have to rewind way back to the early 2000s. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck weren't just another Hollywood couple, they were the Hollywood couple. Bennifer wasn't a tabloid nickname, it was a cultural phenomenon. They met in 2002 on the set of Giggly, and from the start, their chemistry was impossible to ignore. Engagement rumors turned into reality, and for a moment, it looked like a fairy tale in the making. But fame has a way of testing even the strongest love stories. The constant media frenzy, paparazzi invasions, and relentless headlines wore them down. In 2004, just days before their planned wedding, they called it off. The breakup made front-page news around the world, and fans were left wondering how something that perfect could fall apart so fast. They went their separate ways. Lopez married Mark Anthony, Affleck married Jennifer Garner, and both started families. For nearly 2 decades, their lives moved in completely different directions, until 2021, when the internet did a double take. Out of nowhere, Bennifer was back. The two rekindled their romance with a maturity and calm that felt worlds away from their early days. They married in a small, intimate ceremony in Las Vegas in 2022, followed by a lavish celebration in Georgia. It seemed like their story had finally come full circle, the perfect second chance that Hollywood loves to write. But real life isn't always a movie. By 2024, things began to unravel again. Rumors of distance and tension became impossible to ignore, and in early 2025, they finalized their divorce. After so many years, chapters, and comebacks, it looked like the story of Bennifer had truly ended. At least, that's what everyone thought, until Kiss of the Spider-Woman brought them back into the same spotlight once more. When Jennifer Lopez first read the script for Kiss of the Spider-Woman, she said she was floored. It wasn't just another role, it was everything she'd ever wanted in one project. Singing, dancing, acting, and that old-school Hollywood glamour she grew up idolizing. The film gave her a chance to channel both her artistry and her emotions during one of the hardest moments in her personal life. But here's where it gets interesting. The film almost didn't happen. It sat in development limbo for years, bouncing between studios until Ben Affleck stepped in. Through his production company, Artist Equity, the same one he co-founded with Matt Damon, Affleck decided to back the project. He believed in it, and he believed in her. Without that decision, Lopez herself has said, the movie simply wouldn't have been made. Kiss of the Spider. Woman isn't just another musical adaptation, it's a bold reimagining of the classic 1993 Broadway hit and the 1985 film before it. Directed by Bill Condon, the mind behind Chicago, the film dives into a world of illusion and escapism, where fantasy becomes a form of survival. Lopez stars as Ingrid Luna, a silver screen diva trapped between dream and reality, a role that, in many ways, mirrors her own life story. Strength, vulnerability, and reinvention under pressure. Affleck's involvement gave the production credibility, financial backing, and global attention. The pairing of Lopez in front of the camera and Affleck behind it turned the movie into more than a passion project. It became a shared legacy between two people whose personal and professional worlds had collided more times than anyone could count. And when the film finally made its way from Sundance buzz to the bright lights of New York City, fate brought them face to face again. For one night, under the flash of 1,000 cameras, Kiss of the Spider-Woman wasn't just a movie premiere. It was a full-circle moment, a reunion of art, history, and emotion that no one saw coming. But that wasn't even the most surprising part. The night of October 6, 2025, started like any other New York premiere until the crowd realized who had just arrived. Jennifer Lopez, radiant in a sculptural Harris Reed gown, stepped out onto the carpet with her usual confidence. The dress, a piece from Reed's Spring 2026 collection, was a blend of metallic folds and structured elegance, part goddess, part armor. It was the kind of look that said, "I've been through the fire, and I'm still standing." Then came the real shocker. Ben Affleck. Dressed in a classic black suit, calm and collected, he walked onto the same red carpet he hadn't shared with Lopez in nearly a year. For a moment, the chatter stopped. Then the flashes erupted. The producers, the press, and the fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. The former couple, side by side again, smiling. They didn't pose as strangers. They didn't act awkward. Instead, they stood together naturally, exchanging quiet words, light laughs, and the kind of comfortable body language that said more than any public statement ever could. Photographers shouted their names, but the two barely broke composure. It wasn't forced and it wasn't a show. It felt human. When Lopez took the mic before the screening, she didn't shy away from the elephant in the room. "Thank you, Ben," she said, looking his way. "This movie wouldn't have been made without you and without artist equity." The room fell quiet. A rare, sincere moment that echoed louder than any gossip headline. And on Affleck's side? He kept his tone measured when asked by reporters about working on the project. He spoke about Lopez's performance with respect and pride, calling her a force and saying she brought a level of dedication you can't fake. No drama, no tension. Just two professionals with a shared past and a shared success, standing in the same spotlight again. But behind the cameras and polite smiles, one question hung in the air. Was this just closure? Or something they weren't ready to close yet? Because while the photos looked composed, insiders say the energy between them was unmistakable. And that's where things start to get interesting. For Jennifer Lopez, Kiss of the Spider-Woman wasn't just another acting job. It was survival. Behind the cameras, she was quietly navigating one of the most painful chapters of her life. The end of her marriage to Ben Affleck in early 2025 wasn't messy in the tabloids, but it was deeply personal. She described it later as a time when everything felt like it was falling apart. Filming this movie during that emotional storm turned out to be both a challenge and a lifeline. On CBS Sunday Morning, Lopez admitted, "It was a really tough time. Every moment on set, I was so happy. And then I'd go home, and it wasn't great." It was as if she was living two lives, one filled with the joy and fantasy of art, and the other haunted by the quiet ache of reality. But art has always been her way through. The story of Kiss of the Spider-Woman, about escapism, about how fantasy can save us from pain, became her mirror. Playing Ingrid Luna wasn't just a role, it was therapy in motion. On screen, she portrayed a woman trapped between illusion and truth. Off screen, she was learning to breathe again. When she appeared on the Today Show just days before the premiere, her tone was calm but firm. "Things happen," she said about the divorce. "You have to keep going." There was no bitterness, no drama, just quiet strength. She even credited Affleck for pushing the project forward, saying, "If it wasn't for Ben, the movie wouldn't have gotten made." That statement said more than it seemed. It wasn't just gratitude, it was acknowledgement. No matter how their love story ended, he still played a part in helping her rebuild. And that's what makes this film more than just a musical. It's a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in heartbreak, creation can still bloom. Because sometimes, the only way to heal from the past is to turn it into art. And for Jennifer Lopez, that's exactly what this movie became. But what about Ben? What did this project mean for him? And what does their reunion really say about where they stand now? No. When Jennifer Lopez took the stage at the premiere, she didn't hide behind vague acknowledgments or polite thank yous. Her words were direct and surprisingly emotional. "This movie wouldn't have been made without Ben and without artist equity," she said, her voice steady but warm. It was more than a nod to a producer. It was public recognition of someone who had once been her partner in both life and love. Ben Affleck's role in Kiss of the Spider-Woman went far beyond a name in the credits. As an executive producer through his and Matt Damon's company, Artist Equity, Affleck was part of the team that gave the film life, creatively, financially, and logistically. Sources close to the production say he fought to get the musical approved when studios hesitated, believing Lopez could bring something special to the character of Ingrid Luna. And he was right. Early screenings at Sundance proved that Lopez's performance was more than just another comeback. It was a statement. Critics called it career-defining, and some even whispered that she could be in the running for major awards. Whether Affleck's decision to back the film came from a place of professional respect or personal care, the outcome was undeniable. Together, they created something that demanded attention. During the premiere interviews, Affleck downplayed the personal history, focusing instead on Lopez's artistry. "She's one of the most disciplined, talented people I've ever worked with," he told one outlet. "When Jen commits to a role, she goes all in." It was a calm, grounded response, the kind you'd expect from someone who had learned to separate the personal from the professional, at least in public. But Lopez's gratitude cut deeper than business. It spoke to a kind of unspoken bond, one that survived breakups, distance, and divorce. In her own words, the film got her through a moment that was difficult, and it was Affleck who gave her that opportunity. That's not just collaboration. That's grace. Their story may have ended as a couple, but on that red carpet, it was clear. They still shared something rare in Hollywood: mutual respect. And for fans who followed their journey for over 2 decades, that simple act of kindness meant more than any romantic reunion ever could. Still, as the cameras flashed and social media erupted, not everyone believed this was purely professional. Some fans saw something else: a spark, a look, a moment that felt like the beginning of something new. And that's where the speculation began. And here's where it gets interesting. Because after that premiere night, and the way J.Lo looked at Ben, fans aren't convinced this is just friendly exes doing PR. Some insiders claim the two have been texting again for weeks leading up to the Kiss of the Spider-Woman premiere. Others say this was simply closure, a full circle Hollywood moment where both stars finally let go of what could have been. But here's the twist. Jennifer's next project reportedly explores love lost and found again, while Ben's producing a film about forgiveness and fame. Coincidence? Fans don't think so. Whether this was a spark reignited or just an artistic reunion, one thing's clear. Whenever J.Lo and Ben share a frame, the world stops watching everyone else. Because maybe, just maybe, Bennifer's story isn't finished yet. In the end, what happened at the Kiss of the Spider-Woman premiere wasn't just a Hollywood reunion, it was a reminder of how art mirrors life. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have lived, loved, fallen apart, and rebuilt, all under the harshest spotlight imaginable. But that night, it wasn't about tabloids or nostalgia. It was about two people who turned pain into performance, heartbreak into healing, and chaos into creativity. Because that's what Hollywood does best. It turns real stories into legend. And maybe that's what Bennifer has become. Not just a love story, but a symbol of resilience, reinvention, and the beauty of starting over. Even when the world thinks your story is done. Because sometimes the most cinematic thing you can do is show up again. And that's the story. The night Hollywood couldn't look away. What do you think? Was this just closure or the spark of something new? Drop your thoughts below. And if you love deep dives into celebrity moments like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the next twist in Hollywood's biggest stories. Until next time.